Only thing worse is she was making a bundt cake.
That's the first time the words bundt cake have been mentioned on your podcast, right?
I think so.
That's a fact.
I think so.
The Fred Minnick Show is brought to you by Michter's and 291 Colorado Whiskey.
Peyton, Cooper, thanks for coming on. Good, you look good in an ascot. What do you think, Peyton?
Well, you tell me. I mean, you're the expert. It's rarely that Cooper comes and changes a wardrobe once he gets here. This is a first, but
you know, Fred knows Southern hospitality. He comes to my town, he brings a gift, and we don't mess around. We're off the rack on the back, Fred, right? You know, hand it up, open the present, and then you did help me tie it, so I do appreciate that.
Well, you know, but you all also have some great clothing stores here. Rubenstein's?
Yes, yes.
They have the best ascot selection in the country.
Is that right? You know,
Yeah.
I went to school with the Rubenstein
Really?
kids, yeah, and I never saw them wear an ascot to school, which is odd.
Well, they probably just keep them stocked for weirdos like me, you know, who come into New Orleans.
They're backlogged on ascots. That's fantastic.
So I come here usually in like the dead of summer, and I'll go there, and there'll be like clearances on ascots, because who the hell's wearing an ascot in July, right? So,
I can assure you, me in 1 year.
Yeah. I love it.
I'm coming in early. I'm coming in
love
about a week before you get here and just take all your
Oh, well, you know what? Maybe if we go there together, I get a better deal since you went to school with
That's
them.
probably right. She didn't like me very much. They're probably going to premium charge.
it's called a Coopy discount.
Yeah, you can get that in several stores.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming on, y'all. I'm excited to drink some whiskey with you. And also, welcome to the whiskey business.
Thanks.
I mean, cool.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey, Fred. It's been I've learned a lot. Kind of surrounded myself with some great teammates, Marianne, who I know you know. So it's been a fun adventure, and we're kind of just getting started. Launched during a pandemic, which is I don't know if I'd recommend or not, but we did it and we got through it, and it's just exciting to see what's on the horizon. It's great to be here in Louisiana, Cooper and I's home state, and so we're kind of spreading the word and looking forward to what's ahead. It
is cool. We'll go ahead and start off with pouring a little of your whiskey here. This is batch 2. Now, I tasted this earlier. You all did really good on this. It's better, I think, than the first batch, which was pretty good.
And why do you say that?
Well, this has got a touch higher in proof, and you know, there's a little bit more spice in there. And I really like it when a bourbon expresses itself on the back of the palate. So when you taste this, see how it feels on the back of your palate, because when I tasted it for the first time, there was like a back palate explosion, kind of like a lot of pepper spices. You know, imagine with what Cooper's used to on a daily basis.
Yes.
A lot of spice.
Let's leave my bowels out of it, Fred. Sorry. You know, Fred, the first time I was on the show, which was probably a year change, I was way in over my head, I would say, and now I feel like kind of a savvy veteran.
That's what's scary, is that he thinks he's on your level already.
It's beginning.
Yeah, clearly.
He's dressing like you. Yeah. He's going to speak like you. He's going to have his own podcast like you.
That'd be awesome.
And Entourage is next, Fred. You know? I can see him lined up waiting to get autographs from both of us.
Now, how long you all been drinking bourbon?
It is new to me, and that's why I'm the first to admit that I do not have all the answers on this. And like in anything I've gotten into, if you don't know, admit it, and go surround yourself with some people who do know. Sure. And it's been fun having Marianne Eves kind of be the quarterback of this team, if you will, to use a cheesy football analogy, Fred, on your show. She's calling the shots, and we're just kind of following her lead. It's just been awesome to see what a star she is and the respect that she has in this industry. So if it wasn't for her, I don't think we'd be at this point. We wouldn't be on your podcast, wouldn't have been in Texas and Louisiana, along with Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, and Colorado. Just a coincidence, a couple of states that I have connections to.
That's awesome.
And so, so she's taught us a lot about it. I've learned a lot. I think what Cooper and I both agree on, Fred, the people that do drink a lot of bourbon, that know bourbon, they've been just very honest and straightforward and said, we love how it tastes. It really tastes good, and so I kind of go off that feedback as opposed to me acting like I'm a bourbon expert. And when you get into palate, I don't even want to think about.
Yeah, you made a palate on the floor to sleep a couple nights ago.
So who's the most likely teammate on the whiskey side to steal a bottle, from your collection, that they shouldn't?
Ooh.
I think Roddick.
I think Roddick.
Yeah.
He's kind of got a lot of
Pent up aggression.
I would say
Yeah.
a propensity to be a thief. He's a stealer.
Yeah, It'd be say you kind of. He and Eli, I think, kind of the same category. You got to keep your eyes on him. Eli, we call him the silent assassin. You think he's just sweet, innocent. Next thing you know, he's stolen your bourbon. He has changed the language settings on your iPhone. You can't get it out.
Focus on that back palate. So you feel it in the back. Very different there than that first batch. A lot of pepper.
A lot more pepper.
And the spice and the kick I like, is that just depend on the individual, or is that kind of a...
Yeah, everybody's palate's different. So, it's much like athleticism. A lot of it's genetics, and a lot of it's like what you ate during the day, what's influenced you. Everything has an impact, so.
What's unique about this one, as I've learned, the first year it was Marianne just, doing a 13-year age. This batch was really her using her expertise and using her blending skills of a 4-year, 6-year, and a 16-year. So that's what I've learned is kind of where she does her magic, because she can take these different age barrels and mix, blend them, and come into this special second batch. That there's 50,000 bottles now. We're proud to share it with other states. Last year just in Tennessee and Georgia. And Fred, it's the same theme. It's based off the golf course, Sweetens Cove, which, as you know, it's a 9-hole kind of hidden treasure golf course in Tennessee, hard to find. And the bourbon kind of follows a similar path. It's premium. There's not that many bottles. It's hard to find, but when you find it, wow, I really have something special here. And the two things I've learned about bourbon: better have a story with it, and it better taste good. And we feel like we're 2 for 2 on those so far.
Well, I think the story part, in my world, that's just a little bit. It better taste good. That's the leader.
That's 98%. All right.
And price is the other one that comes in there, and you all are priced at a premium for sure. And this is there's a lot of $200 to $400 products out there, and it's right there in the thick of it. In fact, there's some $200 products out that just are awful, absolutely awful right now. So there's a lot of bad whiskey hitting the market, and you all are not one of them. So.
Great.
So that's good thing. So it's good to come into the market and not suck. So cheers to that.
And, it's always good also, Fred, to have a lot of friends who are big bourbon guys. I have friends that drive places instead of flying, because they may run into a little spot that has some sort of bourbon they've been chasing, and they're honest with us. They're old friends who would tell us, this sucks, or you're onto something good. And we've gotten pretty critical. Honest friends have given us, giving us the good, saying, we're on to something here.
Yeah, that's good to have honest friends, especially when it comes to bourbon in the bourbon world, because this is a genre that people do not mince words. And I want to take you now.
Goodness.
Want to take you now to the 1940s. So we started with yours. We're now going to the 1940s. This is Four Roses. This is a blend of straights from the 1940s. Now, Four Roses is a brand that's purely a straight bourbon now, but back then there was not a lot of bourbon in the barrels that they could bottle as straight, so they had to get bourbon from all over the place. And when you do that, you can't. There's certain label laws that you have to follow. So if you all ever get down the road where you are blending in bourbon from Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Texas, by law, you will have to label it as a blend of straights.
Right.
And this happens to be a vintage, very old bottle. And the last NFL player I drank this with, you may not like this, Ndamukong Suh.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
I always try to be very nice to Ndamukong Suh, get on his good side.
Yeah.
So he does it put you on your backside.
He was.
He's a bourbon guy.
He's a bourbon guy. He actually owns a little piece of a bourbon company.
Does he?
Yeah.
Need to get him some Sweetens Cove.
We also need to give him an ascot, Fred.
Well, I sent him one, and he didn't wear it.
Didn't fit.
Fred, it probably wrapped around his wrist. You know,
Big boy.
He's got a neck, a 22-inch neck. It's bigger than the whole batch of Four Roses we're getting ready to drink.
I could have lived in the 40s. I could have.
What would New
You would have
Orleans?
thrived in the 40s?
What would New Orleans been like in the 40s?
Oh, I would say absolute the Wild West. Fun, gambling, mafia, a lot of entertainment.
What do you mean by entertainment, Cooper?
Fred, this is a show we've already. I would say
great music.
great music. I would say a lot of comedy. I would say a lot of burlesque shows, if you will.
Great food.
And yeah, you know, the restaurants, and then just, you know, the mixture of all the Spanish, the French, and just a bustling town, a place to be. And yeah, I would have been a good decade in the 40s. Would have been Fred. Us three, dear God, look out! Huh? I mean, I don't even want to talk about it.
Well, this bottle could have been sitting on a shelf. You know,
you're probably. You know, it's ironic. We're in a restaurant called Jack Rose, which is a bourbon drink. I bet you it has a little history with Four Roses. I bet that's where it came from.
Probably.
I'm no historian, but I am today.
What's your collection of bourbon look like, Fred? I mean,
I'm not a collector as much as I have a bunch of bottles opened and I share with friends. But I've got, you know, between my house and my office and a few other hiding spots, between 3,000 and 5,000 bottles.
Goodness, where are you hiding bottles, Fred? You got to go in some cemetery and behind a.
I am constantly surprised where I have a random bourbon bottle.
Is that right?
And most of it's because I have to hide it from my wife. You know, she steals my bourbon all the time.
She likes the hooch?
She drinks the bourbon, so I'm out of town, right? And I have this really rare bottle of Booker's. It was the only bottle, it was the only like Booker's rye that they ever put out. I mean, right now it's between $800 and $1,200 on the secondary market, just incredibly complex, beautiful. I get home, the damn thing is drained. She's been making whiskey sours out of it.
Oof. That's, I mean, the only thing worse is she was making a bundt cake.
That's the first time the words bundt cake have been mentioned on your podcast, right?
I think so.
That's a fact.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you think of this this little piece of history of this Four Roses?
I like a little more tame, maybe not the same kick. Seems like just a little more.
It's a lot lower in proof.
I feel
but
You don't.
I do. I feel it right in my face. That's going numb right now.
now this tastes a lot like leather and mint to me, like a lot of leather, like a chin piece or something like that.
Like a what?
Like a the chin strap or like a
like a
piece of saddle leather.
Yeah. Maybe a chin strap from the 40s. It's you just found
I mean,
in your.
or maybe
They
a helmet.
didn't have chin straps in the 40s. They had leather helmets.
They just had leather.
Yes.
Yeah. Licking a leather helmet with Fred. What could go wrong? This is I think it's delicious.
It's amazing too. It's kept, all these years it's kept. And one of the bottles I brought here, this is from this was distilled 1916 and bottled in 1925. Wow. I had to open it beforehand because it hadn't touched oxygen in nearly 100 years. So I wanted to air out a little bit because when it first hits oxygen, it can be really, it can be very interesting with a whiskey that old.
And do bourbons, can they go bad?
They can go bad. It's all about where they're stored, how they're stored, and also cork back then didn't have the same treatments as they do today. So a cork from back then could have been just straight from a tree, without like any treatment to it. And so there could still be, that's coming from an oak tree. So was the barrel coming from an oak tree. So there could be like lignans and tannins injected into the spirit because the spirit's pulling it out from the cork. And it could also be drying the cork and it could be slowly going off. There's also an issue with like mice. Mice like to eat cork from old whiskey bottles. If you stored it next to something like say gasoline that has, puts out vapors that could get in there. So there's a lot of storage issues that can be had. And when I noticed it started evaporating, I was like, I got to bust this open. But I don't break out something. This was originally going to be consumed with my little boy when he turned 21 because his name's Oscar. This is the old Oscar Pepper.
And you're wasting it on Cooper?
Yeah, really.
And
Oscar, Koopy before Oscar. I love it already, Fred.
Well, I've already secured another Oscar Pepper,
Okay.
So
right.
I'm not letting my boy down just yet.
Good. Yeah.
Just
I always like a guy named Oscar. I mean, you can count on him, right?
Yeah.
You can throw up in his car and he won't even care.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 2 little boys, and I'm watching you as a father right now with how you are with your boy in the national limelight. And, you know,
What grade do you give me, Fred? It's got to be in the low C minus.
I mean, honestly, I look up to you as a father.
Well, thank
I
you.
think you're doing an incredible job.
Well,
you know,
we had a pretty good, mentor to kind of, it's always helpful to have a little template ahead of you where you can kind of follow the leader. So I appreciate that. It's a pleasure to
Absolutely.
drink bourbon with you. I appreciate you breaking out something special on our behalf.
What does it mean to you to see your son, following the family legacy?
Well, I think for all your children, you want them just to be happy and do things they're passionate about and they love to do. So if it was violin or piano or tennis or golf or whatever he's passionate about, you want them to follow their dream. And as parents, you want to put them in positions to succeed and be happy. So I'm proud of all my children for a number of different reasons. But it's fun to see them like things they like to do, and looking forward to it's been fun to watch them interact with Peyton. We were just up in Denver working out and showing him, kind of teaching him some things that were out of my league, and he's thrived in that. So it's fun to see him learn.
It's awesome. Where do you think he is right now?
I don't talk about him much publicly. He's got a lot of expectations and pressure on him. I feel like when I speak, all that does is kind of add or increase. So I'm his uncle. I'm proud of him, just like I am all of Cooper's 2 other children and Eli's children, and try to be a good uncle. Cooper's a great uncle to our kids, as is Uncle Eli. So this has been a fun second chapter, for me, kind of post football, raising children and seeing Cooper's got one going to college, which is hard to believe.
Because I went to the carnival instead of college, Fred, which makes it, we're proud of her.
About spit my whiskey on Peyton there. That was so funny. That'd have been bad.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty admirable. One of the other things that it seems to be in the family tradition is like no social media. How the heck can you survive in today's world without social media? I admire that.
I think we took a big cue off Peyton there. I mean, for being pretty well known, he's one of the few that's not on it, and I think it's a nice thing to have your children not be on it. It's one less thing to worry about. It's hard enough as it is. So
yeah,
I think Fred, I can speak to as a football player, is that I survived without it. All players did up until when did it start in the mid 2000s. People communicated in the locker room. When we had a little break, we talked and spoke to each other, right? As opposed to everybody going down to their phones and checking social media. In football, it can be divisive where players are reading comments and what the fans are saying, and critics are saying. Next thing they're going to tell the coach, hey, they say I should get the ball more. You need to call more plays to me. So I guess my point is life was actually possible without social media for a long time. And I think there's some, maybe you call them old school lessons out of that pre-social media that I think are still important today. Speaking to people, looking people in the eye, still writing a handwritten letter or still making a phone call to them as opposed to just tweeting it out, kind of, maybe a little more personal touches I think are still important. So that's probably why, had I been born later and all I knew was social media, I'm sure I would be on it. But just because played for a long time without it, and you can still communicate and survive without it.
Well, God bless you for doing that. It feels like it tears our country and everything else apart all the time. So now we're going to go back to the modern world with some Michter's 10-year-old. Now this is
Michter. Where's that out of? Fred?
So this is out of Kentucky. This is from a distillery in Kentucky called Michter's. It's formerly in Pennsylvania, and they were a famous Pennsylvania distillery, and then moved to Kentucky after the Pennsylvania one went out of business in 1987. It was, speaking of family, the founder of it named it after his 2 boys. The first child was Michael. The second child was Peter. So Michter's is a tribute to his 2 children.
That's very nice.
What's the cost of it, Fred?
This is about a $100 to $200 product, depending on the market.
You fall into the premium world.
Yeah, this would be a super premium. Dare I say a competitor to yours?
Oh, Fred. I'm gonna have to meet Michter outside during commercial. That's okay. That's a cool. It is a cool top though. It's kind of got got a little almost little.
Yeah, the little wax there. I will tell you, I hate wax tops.
Do you?
I hate
Say,
it.
is the bottle important? Is the presentation important to you? I mean, I know the taste is here, but I mean,
the bottle is important, but it's more important about like how much room it takes up on my shelf.
got it.
Because like if you get one that's like that wide, it takes off like half of the shelf.
You're telling me Michael and Peter were not concerned about your shelf space?
Well, they're long gone by now, but this is a fine bottle. But there are bottles out there that are take up that much space in comparison to that one, which is like that. I'm not really that much into the bottle. I like a cool label. I like a cool label. But
How we doing on the label department?
your label's pretty like new age. So there's no. First of all, it's always nice when it doesn't fall into that like historic style of like old this, old that, or whatever. So the fact that it's even named Sweetens Cove is kind of interesting. For those of us that didn't know about the golf course, it was like, oh, what is this? So that part of it, it's pretty unique. But the bottle, this is the good color design. Use cork. I'm a passionate cork person because this is sustainable. And I also, when synthetic cork has been sitting for a while, I can taste the plastic, and I've tasted it blind, and I've been able to taste it, and it's like I hate synthetic cork. So screw cap I'm okay with, but I don't think you want a screw cap. It's just kind of cheap. But
Fred, can I ask you a question? As far as bourbons go, I'm sure you drink it several times a week. Are you always a bourbon straight guy, or do you like a Manhattan or an old fashioned?
Oh yeah, of course I mix it up.
Mix it up.
But like if I'm being analytical, so if I'm like I have my own spirits competition, and I'm a critic. And if I am just analyzing the spirit, I do it based on like how it's in the bottle. I won't add anything. But if I'm just out enjoying myself, if I'm going to a football game, I really like whiskey on the rocks, something like that. If I'm fishing, something like that, yeah, of course I'm mixing it up.
You have a bourbon and Coke sometimes at a football game?
Yeah, Jack and Coke.
That tastes like a football game to me. That's what reminds me of freshman year.
You got to get the right one. What I hate is when someone spends $200-300 for a bottle of bourbon and then mix it.
Yeah.
And a Manhattan, fine. Old fashioned, fine. But when you're adding Coke, I mean, come on.
I agree.
Why waste the money?
No kidding.
Why waste the money? Sorry, I'll give this a little Michter's here a taste, and see what you think.
More similar to Sweetens Cove than the
Four
Roses.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
Definitely more modern.
I love the fact that I said something and Fred agreed with me.
Yeah.
I love the fact, I mean, you're just throwing darts. You're saying a lot. And he's kind of just being nice because you're wearing his ascot. I feel like I'm actually on
Peyton, let's be honest.
Fred, I can't feel my face right now.
Wearing the ascot goes a long way.
I just thought it'd be too much, like we're kissing up too much. We both wore them.
If I had a beard and those glasses,
if he would have had more time,
this would be the most viewed.
Hey, I got a haircut because of you guys.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Here in New Orleans, or
here in New Orleans?
Wow.
I had to have an emergency barber come in and cut my hair.
Did you get the beard trim?
Got a beard trim and everything. And here's the thing: I've been growing it out, with COVID. and what have you. And my mother-in-law took one look at me when she's getting the kids. She's like, you need to cut your hair.
You're not going on the road.
She's like, you need to cut your hair for Peyton Manning. and I said, and it just stuck with me. And when my mother-in-law says something, so I asked a couple of the people, like, oh yeah. I'm like, people have been lying to me about my hair looking good this whole time. So,
Well,
Fred, I remember one of my favorite signs when we were on the show before. You had that sign behind you that said "Vodka sucks."
That's right.
I told Peyton that before. I said, just so you know what we're dealing with. Fred's a purist. Potato juice out of the gates.
Yeah, that stuff is the devil.
Yeah.
But if you want to drink vodka, that's absolutely fine.
Sure.
I have no issues with that.
Have you ever partake in a little summertime vodka tonic?
Only for charity. Mm-hmm. I took the last time I drank vodka. I made a charity. I think it was $5,000. It was a USO charity, and there was a random bottle of Kettle One or something, and I'm like, hey, drink this for charity.
It's like equivalent of like a player wearing it'd be like Tom Brady wearing a Peyton Manning jersey. It burns.
Yeah,
it stings.
It does.
That's kind of
leaves a mark.
Yeah, exactly. Fred's too. Yeah, he's too loyal.
I could see them two trading jerseys at some point for a charity.
I think it's just going to be a bourbon relationship going forward. I think, Fred. I think keep it liquid.
Liquid is the way to go. Mm-hmm. All right. So the consensus on Michter's, you like it?
Solid.
Yeah, I think right down the middle. Nothing. I don't want to get in a rumble with the Michter folks, but I think a Wednesday lunch, fine.
Wednesday lunch. Yeah. All right.
I was going to ask you also, Fred, what's your favorite food to eat with it? How do you?
Oh, barbecue. Probably barbecue. I'm a big fan of like any of the meats, and also things like beets and like really rich vegetables go incredible with bourbon. But you got to pair it right. If you can't have an over the top blue cheese or vinaigrette there, it's got to be balanced. Salmon is really good.
Really? That surprises me.
Yeah, like especially if it's like a butter, like there's a little butter and a little kind of like dill on top of it. There are some whiskeys that have like really nice herbal notes that really complement the herbalness of the salmon topper. But overall, barbecue is just it's perfect. The one thing that I have found that has not been able to pair well with bourbon has been some of the like nigiris in the sushi world. So like raw fishes, those don't do so hot. You need a sake for that.
Fred, I'm just kind of role playing here a little bit, but I would love for someone to call like my parents and say, "You're not going to believe this. I saw Cooper today with a gentleman in an ascot. He was wearing an ascot as well. They were both eating beets and drinking bourbon." That's what I want. Come back and go, "Cooper, was that true?" I can confirm that was in fact the case.
It was a Monday.
It was a Monday.
It was a Monday, and we're now going to the psychiatrist.
I think this gentleman had just gotten a haircut.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now we're going to go to Colorado.
All right.
And I will say that this one is very different than everything that we have tasted here. So this is a Colorado bourbon at cask strength, finished in Aspen. So to stay in the play of that fine state. Aspen Staves.
Name of it?
291.
291.
291.
What should we be looking?
First of all,
looking for here?
It's hot, so know that going in. It's going to be hotter.
Hotter meaning what?
Like it's more alcohol forward.
Okay.
So then, also the Aspen gives it like this smoke character that you do not get in American whiskeys. So be looking for like different types of smoke.
And then what foreign country is kind of known for its, what do you think is
So for a smoke perspective,
yeah, right.
Definitely Scotland with the peated versions. Not everything in Scotch is peated, but the Isla region, they have, the Lafroig, Lagavulin, super peat forward. And for a lot of people, that's an off-putting note, but for folks like me, it's a nice little touch. You know?
Fred, can a novice sometimes confuse a Scotch and a bourbon?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What I have found that you have, when people are not accustomed to drinking spirit, it can be a tough road to hoe for them, and their palate gets like shocked, you know? So in some ways, you got to get yourself used to it.
Smoke.
Yeah, that is.
Got the smoke.
Yeah, I feel like I just ate a brisket.
A big old thick, juicy Texas brisket.
Fred, is this the first one of your shows where you have been asked more questions by the subject as opposed to you interviewing him? It's got to be. It's got to be at least in your top 5.
I will tell you, the one that was the worst was Terry Bradshaw. I mean, I think I might have asked one question.
He can make a run-on sentence as good as anybody.
And he flipped it on me so quickly, I didn't even have a chance.
Tell us who else we need to send
Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson.
Charles Woodson has a bourbon out.
See him
Of course
shortly.
he does. Yeah, good.
Yeah, and the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I can't shake the guy. He's everywhere I go. He's with me.
Yeah, locked.
I think this might be the greatest Hall of Fame class of all time.
And he wears an ascot, which is ironic.
Yeah,
He does. That is true.
Yeah.
It all connects.
I know. It's a small world, the bourbon world.
I know.
A bunch of kissing cousins.
There's not a whole lot of ascots, though.
I think, yeah.
Hot.
Now we're going to, you should have a glass of water there. We'll rinse out. We're going to go to some rum.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to go to a pre-Castro, so whichever glass you want to use. But this is prior to the Cuban Revolution, before Castro came involved, took over the country, you know, that's when this rum was made. And Cuban rum, much like Cuban cigars, are highly coveted. You know, they're very good. And they're also all owned by the government. So this is a little taste of Cuban history.
Wow. I'm excited now. I've been to Cuba. I went a couple years ago.
After we lifted the embargo for a second?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
5-minute window, and gorgeous. You know, the architecture actually reminds me very much of the French Quarter.
Yeah.
You know, but just neglected. It's kind of a sadder.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to put it. Now, rum is actually the spirit that, as Americans, we drink first. We were drinking rum before we were drinking, bourbon.
Yeah,
And,
I want to hear about. Explain how that all came about.
So we were prior to the Revolutionary War. We were obviously ran by the English. The English had all the major rum-making colonies in the East Indies, or the West Indies, and they basically would have their molasses imported here, and it would be distilled in the New England area, and so that's where a lot of stuff was made. They also imported a great deal amount of rum from like Martinique, from Jamaica, Barbados, all of these places.
Sugar producing.
Yeah, all the sugar producing areas. And there was a good amount of rum and sugar made here in Louisiana, obviously. And we were indeed big rum drinkers. We were drinking a lot more rum than we were whiskey. And in fact, the English was very much against us distilling corn. They wanted corn to be used for food and for livestock feed. And the corn, once we became our own country, was being distilled more. Once we became our own country, we started moving away from the things that the English wanted, to the point that Congress actually penalized rum. So they put tariffs on rum, and they put tariffs on foreign molasses. And so they basically created a system that would help farmers in the United States, because they were growing the corn and the rye and things like that would be distilled here in the United States. So anything that was foreign would get heavily impacted by our tariff system. So this
It's a good history lesson.
Cuban rum
Oh my gosh.
Is this going to be hot?
From molasses. No, this will be like
Fred, that's like
butter.
It's like something putting on your pancakes in the morning.
Yeah.
I was worried what was coming out of your mouth. That was the safest thing he said.
Yeah.
Putting on your what was I gonna say? Putting on your inner thigh in the morning? I'm not gonna say that, Fred.
And there we're back.
Fred, can we get a little panoramic view of the wall here? Because a lot of people don't know this, but when Peyton was out front, working on his 3-step drop and perfecting his throwing motion, I was back in the back house. And my parents wanted me to, be an athlete and stuff, but I also had a passion for painting.
Right.
And so when we opened this hotel, they broke open the storage unit and unveiled all of my.
Was that right?
All of my work.
I didn't recognize.
Dad was a little embarrassed to show at the time, but now he's pretty proud of. Yeah, it's most of my floral work.
Maybe because I've never seen them before.
Did you do the Little Wayne?
No, I wasn't, they just kind of jammed Lil Wayne right in between all my stuff. And everybody takes a picture with it, and no one wants a picture with that beautiful daffodil I did back in the summer of '84.
It is a daffodil. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But this hotel is very significant and important to you all.
It is. This is our neighborhood. This is the Garden District. We grew up riding bikes here, and we had Christmas Eve dinner at the Pontchartrain. The bulk of our youth, and so when this hotel kind of fell on hard times, it was a fun project for us to be involved with, and it's been I think it's been 5 years ago, really right around this time that we opened up, and things are good, business is good, people have enjoyed bringing it back to the Garden District in Uptown New Orleans.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And this is where the NFL announced the New Orleans Saints would become a franchise.
Dave Dixon, that's right.
Pete Rozelle was right there in the Bayou Bar, which, by the way, is a great place for a cheeseburger and an old fashioned. Sometimes if you're craving a little bourbon and want to tiptoe in, eating a burger and kind of getting that's kind of how my mother said that's her first entree back into bourbon.
It's funny how. Our dad has become a real old-fashioned fan.
I know.
And with Sweetens Cove, he's a loyal consumer, and he's proud of his sort of transition in this stage of his life to the old-fashioned. So, but a Sweetens Cove old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you're giving him some cases and not making.
We are. Yeah, Cooper makes him pay for it.
Yeah.
I actually give it to him, because I don't live here, so
right.
Cooper charges him full retail.
For $500 a bottle, he deserves it. He deserves it hand delivered to his house. I'll even pour it in his mouth.
After he put these paintings in,
I know
there,
he was
in charge of.
I can't believe we kept him in that back house for that long.
Your dad is he's a god here, as well as in at Ole Miss.
Yeah, he's.
I think my dad. I mean, Cooper lives here. Obviously, I grew up here, and still get back quite a bit to see friends and family. But I feel like the majority of people that come up to me and talk to me about my dad is that their story is going to be about something outside of football. The way he treated them or their son in a moment at a restaurant after a game. Mm-hmm. Maybe a charity that he supported that he didn't tell anybody about. And so I think that's kind of been the theme for him is, people appreciate the fact that he moved here to New Orleans when he got drafted in '71. He lived here year round, lived here today, raised his family here, and just the way he's kind of treated people. And I think people have remembered that and still sort of look at him as he was the quarterback for the Saints for a long time, but he's been a great ambassador to New Orleans, and
New Orleans has needed him a time or two as well.
He's been a great ambassador. So it's a great city to be from. I've enjoyed living in Tennessee, Indiana, Colorado, but you're only from one hometown, right? Mm-hmm. You're only born in one place, and so being born in New Orleans, what does Dad say? New Orleans born, New Orleans bred. When I die, I'll be New Orleans dead. Right? It's a good place. It's a good one. Yeah.
Well, now we go to the headliner, if you will, of the tasting. And I apologize if I put too much in your belly here, but they told me that we can handle it. So It's time. Let's time for the 100-year-old.
Didn't come here to paint, you know.
Yeah, Fred. Who the heck is they telling you? I mean, I'm a young kid just in town trying to
just
trying to impress and not make a jerk of myself on a TV show. And
you've done that.
And I've already ruined.
It might be too late for
that.
Yeah,
it's over.
But this is such a special. This is such a special bourbon. You know, if you think about it, our country was in a very different place. This was just when this was distilled prior to Prohibition. This would have been available for prescription during Prohibition. This was bottled in 1925, and they actually allowed people to go to a doctor and get a prescription for whiskey. And for whatever reason, this one survived being prescribed by a doctor. Maybe it was prescribed and sat in someone's cabinet for a long time and was never used, which is hard to believe during Prohibition because people needed a drink. So this is for medicinal purposes only, and I think we all need a drink for something.
You would love to get a prescription for.
I know. I got a prescription for several things right now.
No. Stop. No.
But I do think.
No.
But none of them say full pint on it. That's true.
This one. Go ahead and swirl this one around a little bit. Just kind of, think about it from the time. There was the 1920s. I mean, my goodness, football wasn't even in the.
Just starting.
It was just kind of starting. Just
we don't have time for a little history of the NFL. I can give it to you though.
Yeah, it was boxing, baseball, and track.
Don't forget horse racing.
I would equate this whole entire venture to horse racing a little bit. As Peyton and I were talking, I was like, this is, we're not horse people, but at the same time, I think everybody, all our friends are going, that's a pretty horse you got there in Sweetens Cove. Don't ride it. Stay off of it. Stay away. Don't screw it up. It's good like it is. Let it go.
Let Marianne.
It also often takes a long time to make money in the distilling business. Like a lot of people think that you just make money.
No, I think we're more into making memories and having a lot of fun along the way.
It's the story that has kind of drawn me to this project, Fred. Like I said, if you ever go to this golf course in East Tennessee, Cooper, that's what I told you. I was like, you got to just come here and just kind of see it and feel it. And the tradition, for people that don't know, was that it's a public golf course. People were doing a shot of whiskey on the first tee and kind of leaving it for the maintenance staff or the group coming behind them. It was just pay it forward. So off of that tradition at Sweetens Cove Golf Course is where we started Sweetens Cove Bourbon. So it's a real story. It's authentic. It's not just a bunch of people just trying to put their names behind a spirit.
It's not Manning. It's not Manning bourbon.
Absolutely not.
It's not Roddick bourbon.
Thank goodness, for both. It's and so being a University of Tennessee graduate, having great ties to the state of Tennessee, that's what kind of drew me to it. Andy's the one that kind of got me to come see it. Say, Peyton, you've got to come to this place. I'm telling you, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Got there. Anyway, there's the story of kind of how it got going. So it's the story, and then once we kind of got Marianne on the team and realized, what she was capable of, that's kind of when everybody really got excited. And we're
well, you got the real deal in Marianne. I've been a champion of her, for a fan of hers since the beginning.
Tell me what it is about her skills that.
Well, first of all, Marianne is. She's gonna do it her way, and there's not many people who would be up for the Woodford Reserve Master Distiller and would leave for somewhere else, and there's not many people who would get to that somewhere else to be the Master Distiller and go out on their own, and there's not many people who would then go out on their own and then join the circus and keep doing what they're doing. So she has such a unique perspective in knowing who she is. So that's the first part.
Yeah.
The other part is she really knows whiskey, and she knows whiskey from a chemical perspective and a taste perspective. And when you put something like that together, now I have not seen her take what you want or take what another client wants or whatever and put and match that. I don't know that side of her yet, but I will tell you that there's very few things that she has done that has not impressed me. Like when I first met her in 2013, I kind of walked away from that. I was like, I just met a future superstar in our
You
world.
knew it then. Wow.
Yeah. So that was
That's cool.
So it's been really incredible to see her come up like this. And my book, Whiskey Women, was all about like telling the stories of women who were kind of forgotten in history. And she's come through the the door and created a new history for women. And I just I think she and to that. She would love to taste this whiskey, so I'll make sure I save her some. But I'd say, like, toast to her.
Here.
To
Mary Ann.
Ann.
Absolutely. Here.
But this is unique.
I know. I'm not sure. It almost has a little more rum taste, does it?
Did you pour it in the rum glass? I mean, because that might have something to do with it.
Golly, Fred, you got me all discombobulated. I'm mixing glasses.
You were hoping he was going to say it does, because you're learning, but no.
You said
No, seriously. So there's
Isn't division just like multiplication?
there is a kind of like cherry syrup in this,
Okay.
So the
Thank you for
sweetness
bailing
is
me out,
there,
Fred,
and
just for 1 second.
and kind of a little bit like that Four Roses where it's got some leather,
That's what, yeah.
and it could be
Similar
just
to the first one. Yeah.
old, Been in the bottle for a long time. But
What's the name
Peyton,
of your other child, Fred? Oscar and-
Julian Joseph.
Julian.
Yeah, Oscar Leo and Julian Joseph.
That's a good name.
Yeah, the one thing that we have going for us, we can pick good names.
Yeah.
But that's about it. But you have been, Peyton, you had such an incredible career. You're going in the Hall of Fame, best Hall of Fame class, that we've seen, and what's it mean to you to go into the Hall of Fame right now?
Well, it's a great honor. Proud to represent a number of places when you are awarded something like that. Other sports kind of make you choose which team you represent. You have to only go in as a New York Yankee or a Boston Red Sox. And NFL is good because you get to kind of go in as a human being and take whoever was a part of your football journey with you. So I go in as a New Orleans native, as a University of Tennessee graduate, as an Indianapolis Colt, as a Denver Bronco, and all the people from those 4 places that have been a part of my football life, my family, my high school teammates, coaches, college, NFL, not just the teammates and coaches, Fred, the behind the scenes support staff in any business, right? I mean, it's your equipment manager, your video director, people that have received zero attention on a national TV broadcast, but were integral in my football career. So when you find out news like that, that's what I think about, all the people that have been a part of this journey for me, and very honored and very humbled.
Well, I know I look forward to your speech because I remember your retirement speech. You were talking about people on your practice squad that I had never heard about,
Right.
and I just as a fan, I got excited about that.
Yeah, that's my greatest takeaway all my years in playing is the people, and not to draw it back to there, but what I miss about football is being a part of that team. You do everything together. It's the ultimate form of bonding and camaraderie. And so now that I'm not playing, I find myself on different teams, and some philanthropic teams, the Sweetens Cove team, and I always gravitated to team sports growing up as a kid, not the individual sports, because I like working together, communicating, having a goal, trying to execute. But it's been fun kind of going down memory lane once I received the news, because very appreciative of all the people that have helped me in this journey.
Well, there's a lot of people who'd like to see you get back in the game as a coach,
Not sure I'm worthy or qualified. I like being an ambassador. I love football. It's important. I like seeing the game getting safer, and young people knowing that it's still a good game, and so proud to be an ambassador.
All right. You think he'd be a good coach?
Fred, in his Hall of Fame speech that I've been writing, I touch on that a little bit. So you just tune in August, okay?
I love it. Well, what should we wrap up with here? What should be our toast to end it?
I think probably I would go to the reason we're here, Fred.
Go back a little sweet.
All right.
Go back full circle.
Well, I got a dump and swirl with some water.
How many days a week are you having a little sip, Fred? Just a little.
I don't talk about that.
Okay. Good. Just a little.
No, you have to like. So I'm tasting all the time, but you've got to, when you drink for a living, and you pay to drink with people.
Yeah.
You got to manage your liver time. It's kind of like in the NBA, they call it load management.
That's right.
So, which they don't do that in the NFL, but I have to give my liver a little load management. But I'd say day on, day off kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, it's good to have you all in the bourbon industry and the spirits business, and really exciting to see where you all go with it. If I have one piece of advice for you all going forward, it would be to let's get something that is can be on more shelves. Mm-hmm. And I know that's always a challenge, but never forget about the guy who can't afford the $200 bottle. Always think about the guy who, it's kind of like football.
Yeah.
Not everybody can get
that
big ticket, but there's a lot of people in general admission. So I look forward to y'all's career here and where you're going.
Fred,
cheers.
Cheers to you. Thank you so much.
Everything.
Appreciate it very much, Coop.
Okay.
Next time, wear an ascot, Peyton.
I know. How rude.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.